You sit on the edge of your bed, lights dim, the room quiet. You've done your routine, washed your face, brushed your teeth, turned the clock away so you don't see the time tick by. You're trying. You really are. Then you begin. Tap the wrist. Just like the video said. Gentle rhythmic pressure. Then the side of your leg. Slow, even beats. Then under the ear. They said that spot calms the nervous system. You follow the instructions perfectly. You feel a bit more relaxed. Maybe your shoulders drop slightly. Your breath slows. You lie back, close your eyes, and hope. For a few minutes, it seems like it's working. Your mind softens. Thoughts begin to stretch and dissolve. You even feel yourself slipping down into the mattress as if it might finally happen. Finally, a night of rest. But then something shifts. You wake up again. It's not morning. The room is still dark. Your mouth is dry. Your back aches a little. And without even looking at the clock, you know it's been maybe 2 hours, maybe 3. You lie there, unsure why you're awake, heart not racing, but not calm either. It's that hollow alertness, like your body is sleeping but your brain is peeking through a crack in the door. You shift. You try to go back, but something's active inside. Something didn't turn off. You wonder, did the tapping even work? You were told it was a proven trick, something ancient, something rooted in real systems, and maybe it is. But your reality is this. You're awake again, and you feel betrayed, not just by the technique, but by the hope you briefly let yourself feel, that maybe this would be the thing that fixed it, that this would finally be your answer. Because this isn't new. This isn't the first time. This pattern, falling asleep only to wake up again, has followed you for years. Sometimes it's once. Sometimes it's every 90 minutes. You've tried every suggestion they throw at people your age. Dark rooms, no screens, magnesium, earplugs, white noise, chamomile, melatonin. Some of it helps a little. Most of it doesn't. And yet you keep trying, because what else can you do? People around you seem to accept it. We're just getting older, they say. That's what happens. They speak about sleep like it's a lost luxury, like rest is something for the young. But you don't buy that. You don't want to live the last chapters of your life in a haze of fatigue and restless nights. You don't want to spend your mornings dragging yourself out of bed, reaching for the coffee pot before your eyes are even open all the way. You don't want to walk into rooms and forget why you're there, not because your mind is going, but because it's simply tired, underslept, overstimulated, running on empty. And so you keep trying things, tapping, breathing, visualization. You read articles, you watch videos. You wonder why none of it sticks, why nothing seems to last longer than a night or two, if that. Because here's the unspoken truth. It's not just about falling asleep. It's about staying asleep. And no one seems to talk about that part. Falling asleep is easy sometimes. You can trick your body into dozing off. You can dull your senses, distract your mind. But staying asleep, that's different. That requires something else entirely. It requires your system to believe that the danger is gone, that it can shut all the way down, not just the muscles, not just the breath, but the command center, the deep brain. And that part doesn't respond to quick tricks. It doesn't obey temporary calming techniques if it's still receiving conflicting signals from somewhere else in your routine. You can tap every meridian point on your body, but if your brain still thinks it needs to stay alert for any reason, digestion, worry, discomfort, noise, blood sugar, you will wake up. You might not even know why, but you'll be back in that bed, eyes open, frustrated, asking yourself what went wrong. It becomes a loop. Try, hope, tap, drift, wake, stare, repeat. You start to lose confidence in your own ability to rest. You question whether something is wrong with you, whether your body has crossed a line it can't come back from, whether you've aged past the point of deep sleep. And all the while, people around you keep offering advice you didn't ask for. Don't nap. Try lavender. Cut carbs. None of it feels grounded in the actual experience of being up at 3:13 a.m. again, feeling your joints ache, wondering how you'll make it through another sluggish morning. They're not the ones lying there with a racing mind and an exhausted body, unable to make the two connect. You start adjusting your life around the exhaustion. You schedule less. You walk slower. You avoid commitments that come too early. You tell yourself you're simplifying, but deep down, you know it's just fatigue management. It's not choice, it's survival. And that begins to eat at you, because you've lived long enough to know what it feels like to be awake, truly awake. And now that feeling is rare, fleeting, precious. So you keep tapping, night after night, because it's gentle, because it's harmless, because it's something to do when nothing else works. And maybe that's the saddest part of all, that the bar has become so low. You're just grateful to try something. But here's the part no one told you. The tapping isn't the problem. The problem is what you expect it to do. You expect it to be the thing, the solution, the switch that tells your whole nervous system it's safe to shut down. But tapping isn't the switch. It's just a doorbell. And if the rest of the house isn't quiet, it doesn't matter how many times you press it. That's the pattern you're stuck in. Falling asleep, not staying asleep. Feeling better for a moment, then waking up hours before you should. Feeling hope, then disappointment. Again, and again, and again. And until you understand what's really happening under the surface, what's keeping the engine running, even when the lights are off, you'll stay in this loop, waking up confused, tired, resigned. But you don't have to stay here. There's a reason the tapping only works part way, and there's a deeper fix waiting, something more foundational, something most people your age have never been taught. The kind of shift that changes the entire rhythm of your nights, and finally lets your brain do what it's been trying to do all along. Rest. Acupressure isn't magic, especially not in older bodies, but that's not how it's been sold to you. You've seen the videos, read the articles, listened to the wellness podcasts. Tap here, press there, hold your fingers like this, and sleep will come. As if your nervous system is a light switch and all you need to do is flip it off. As if pressing 3 points on your body can override decades of habits, hormones, and internal noise. But you know better than that, don't you? You've lived long enough to know the body doesn't work on hacks. Not really. Especially not your body. It used to bounce back. You could sleep anywhere. On buses, in waiting rooms, during storms, with the TV on. But now you need everything to be just right. And even when it is, something still keeps you wired. Something invisible. Something the tapping never reaches. Because here's the myth, that calming some nerves means calming the whole system. That pressing a pressure point on your wrist somehow tells your brain, your gut, your heart rate, your breathing, your adrenal glands, your thought patterns, your temperature sensors, your bladder, all of it, to power down. It's not true. The body doesn't work like that. It's not one button. It's a system. And you can't trick a system into peace when the rest of it is still on high alert. That's where the myth falls apart. Because tapping does something. It does. You feel calmer for a moment. Your breathing slows. Your shoulders drop. You might even feel a wave of warmth or heaviness in your limbs, and you think, yes, this is it. This is working. But then your blood sugar dips too low, or your cortisol hasn't shut off yet, or your bladder sends a false alarm to your brain, and suddenly, without warning, you're awake again. Not fully, just enough. Enough to feel robbed, enough to break the cycle, and you're back to where you started. So you tap again, desperately now, hoping the next round will do what the first didn't, and maybe you drift off again. But it never lasts, not like it used to, and you start to think something's wrong with you, that maybe your body doesn't respond anymore, that maybe it's broken, but it's not. Your body isn't broken. It's smart, it's protective, and it's not going to let you drop into deep rest just because you tapped a few nerves. Not if the rest of the system still thinks there's a problem to solve. A task unfinished. A signal it hasn't processed yet. You've been misled by a simplified story. A story that says if you just do this one trick, you'll sleep like a baby. But babies don't sleep because they tap their arms. They sleep because their systems are clean. Because they haven't had 50 years of stress, trauma, hormones, medication, disrupted circadian rhythms, and poor information clouding their rest. You have. So no, tapping isn't enough. But the myth persists because it's convenient, it's gentle, it promises hope without effort, and because sometimes it works, just enough to keep you believing. And that might be the cruelest part, that it works just enough to make you think the failure is you, when it's not. It's the myth that sleep can be hacked, that your body is a machine with simple switches, that all you need is one more trick, one more pressure point, one more 90-second method, that all of your restlessness is just a fluke, just a mismatch of nerves waiting for the right tap to reset them. But that's not how this works, because your system isn't a machine, it's a conversation between your brain, your body, your gut, your thoughts, your past, your habits, your food, your hormones. And if even one voice in that conversation is still shouting, your body won't sleep deeply. It can't, and no amount of tapping will silence it. What tapping really does is offer an invitation, a doorway. But it's not the house, it's not the rest, it's not the full answer. And if you stop there, you'll stay in the same cycle: temporary calm, interrupted sleep, frustration, fatigue, again and again and again. You don't need another technique. You need to see the system. You need to stop looking for the light switch and start listening for the static, the leftover signals your body's still reacting to long after your head hits the pillow. Because if you're only addressing one part of the body, you're leaving the rest of it spinning. And spinning systems don't sleep. They just slow down for a while, before revving back up at 2:30 a.m. when you thought you were finally safe. So stop blaming yourself, and stop believing the myth that sleep is about pressure points. It's not. It never was. It's about readiness, permission, alignment. It's about setting the whole body up to trust that nothing else needs to be done tonight. Not processed, not worried about, not digested, not fixed. That's when the sleep comes. That's when the body finally lets go. Not because it was told to by your fingertips, but because it was given nothing left to do. And to get there, you need something deeper, not harder, not stricter, just deeper. A new way of preparing your system, not just one part of it, to cross that invisible threshold where sleep becomes something your body does without effort. That's not a myth. That's what your body is built for. It's time to remember that. You might fall asleep a little faster. That part is true. Maybe the tapping helps you slide into that first layer of rest, the surface layer. The one that feels like sleep from the outside. Your muscles soften. Your breath gets heavier. Your thoughts slow down just enough. And for a brief moment, you feel relief. You think, finally. But then it happens again. You wake up in the dark, hours before sunrise. The room is quiet, but your mind isn't. Your body feels like it's stuck, halfway between sleep and consciousness. Not alert, not asleep, just suspended. You roll over, trying not to check the time, but you already know it's somewhere between 2:00 and 4:00 a.m. Again. You try tapping again. Maybe it works, maybe not. But the next morning, the same grogginess drapes over you like a wet blanket. You shuffle to the kitchen. You reach for the coffee. You sit in silence, already behind, already drained, and it's only 7 a.m. This is the hidden cost no one talks about. The toll of half sleep, of shallow sleep, of sleep that doesn't restore anything. You slept, but your body never stopped working. Your brain never shut off its internal spotlight. That background alertness, the hum of something unfinished, was still there. You were lying still, but your nervous system never got the memo. So now, instead of waking refreshed, you wake foggy, sluggish. You move slowly, not because of age, but because your energy never refilled. You didn't get the deep stage sleep that clears out the inflammation, balances your hormones, cleans your brain. You missed the part that matters. And here's what makes it worse. You blame yourself. You tell yourself you just need to try harder, that you didn't tap the right way, that maybe you need a new sequence, maybe more pressure, more minutes, more points. Over time, you start stacking rituals, tapping plus breathing, breathing plus music, music plus supplements. You keep layering more things on top of each other, hoping one combination will finally do the trick. But with every new trick, the results become smaller. The sleep comes later, the wake-ups come earlier, and the fatigue stays longer. That's what nobody warns you about, the diminishing returns. The more you chase sleep, the further it seems to run. And so your rituals become heavier, longer, more rigid. Sleep stops being natural. It becomes a project, a chore, another part of your day you have to manage. And what's the real cost of that? It's not just the tired mornings. It's what those tired mornings do to the rest of your life. You cancel plans. You snap at your spouse. You forget things more often. You lose the thread of conversations. You lose the desire to reach out, to explore, to connect. You become smaller, quieter, more inward, not because you want to, but because you don't have the energy to be more. And all the while, you still think it's age, or bad luck, or maybe even some flaw in your body. But it's not. It's what happens when your system keeps running all night, when your brain can't enter the deep stages of sleep because your body still thinks something needs to be solved, processed, finished. When the spotlight stays on, even dimly, you never enter recovery mode. You just coast. And coasting feels like surviving. It doesn't feel like living. This is why no amount of morning motivation helps. Why no supplement really works. Why no to-do list ever feels satisfying. Because when your energy is fake, when it's patched together by caffeine and momentum, you're always one decision away from collapse. Your patience is thin. Your memory slips. Your body aches more. Your moods shift faster. And you start to believe this is just how it is now. But it's not. You're not tired because you're old. You're tired because your body never got the signal to stop. And when it never stops, it never repairs, never resets, never truly recharges. And the longer this goes on, the more damage it does. Sleep isn't just about rest. It's the foundation of everything else. Your hormones, your immune system, your blood sugar, your digestion, your memory, your emotional resilience. They all start to fall apart without it. And yet here you are, night after night, tapping points and hoping for miracles. Not because you're foolish, but because no one has taught you anything else. No one has explained that your body doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to safety, to signals, to alignment. And until your system believes it's safe to let go, no amount of tapping will reach the place that needs to be turned off the most. That's the cost. Not just a few rough mornings, but a slow erosion of everything sleep is meant to protect. And the worst part, you can feel it happening. You can feel your life getting smaller, your spark getting dimmer. And you wonder, is this just what happens now? It isn't, but it will continue until you stop chasing hacks and start listening to what your body has actually been asking for all along. Not tricks, not pressure, but permission, stillness, and the kind of calm that doesn't come from your fingertips, but from finally giving your system the message it's been waiting for. You're done for today. You can rest now. Until then, the cost keeps growing, quietly, relentlessly. and you keep waking up wondering why none of it works. Here's what they never tell you. Tapping points can initiate relaxation. They can nudge your system. They can even help lower surface-level tension. But they don't control the part of your brain that actually makes sleep happen. That part is called the hypothalamus. It's your body's central command for rest, recovery, and rhythm. It decides when your system powers down and when it doesn't. And unless it gets the message, everything else you're doing is just background noise. You can tap your wrist, your leg, under your ear, and feel a shift. But if your hypothalamus is still receiving signals that say, "Stay alert," you're not going anywhere deep. You might fall asleep, but you won't stay asleep. You won't enter the kind of rest that repairs. You'll float in and out, half-conscious, waking up groggy, stiff, and confused. And you'll think the tapping failed. But it didn't. It just didn't go deep enough. This is where the hidden truth lies. The hypothalamus only responds when your entire system agrees that the work is done, that nothing more needs to be processed, that there are no threats, no unfinished digestion, no noise in the nervous system. But in older adults, that switch, that shift into recovery mode, is harder to reach. Why? Because your body has decades of patterns, alerts, learned stress, biological wear. It's been through years of subtle trauma, dietary disruption, inflammation, medications, and hormonal shifts. And over time, the default setting moves from rest to readiness. That's right. As you age, your system becomes more prone to staying alert. Not panicked, not fearful, just slightly on. And that's enough to block the hypothalamus from doing its job. That's enough to keep the sleep command center from flipping the switch fully. Think of it like a dimmer light. It's never really off. It's just dimmed. And when that light never fully shuts off, your brain never enters deep sleep. It never detoxes. It never rebuilds memory. It never releases the hormones you need to stay sharp, balanced, and emotionally stable. But here's what's worse. You can't feel it happening. You don't feel your hypothalamus deciding not to power down. You just wake up tired. You just feel that fog, that heaviness, that quiet resistance to doing the things you used to do without thinking. And because you don't know the cause, you assume it's age, or personality, or life catching up. But it's not that. It's simply a brain that never received a full shutdown signal. And tapping, unfortunately, doesn't reach deep enough to provide that signal. It starts the conversation, but it doesn't finish it. It's like knocking on the front door of your house, but never walking inside to turn off the alarm. The house is quieter, but it's still running, still alert, still tense, just under the surface. This is especially important to understand if you're over 60, because your body doesn't just need rest, it needs real rest, strategic rest, targeted calm. And the older you get, the more intentional your signaling needs to be. Your body isn't broken. It's just harder to convince. It's been through more. And that means surface-level tricks no longer work the way they used to. In younger people, tapping might be enough. Their systems are cleaner, faster to respond. But for you, for someone whose body has carried decades of stress, loss, work, caregiving, fatigue, medications, inflammation, insomnia, you need something stronger, not harder, just deeper. You need to address the command center, and that means changing the inputs your brain is reading before you ever tap a single point. Because your hypothalamus isn't just listening to your fingertips, it's listening to your breath, to your blood sugar, to your thoughts, to the light in the room, to the timing of your last meal, to the texture of the silence around you. If any of those things say there's still something happening, the command center will not give the green light for deep rest. Period. That's why some nights you can tap and fall asleep easily, and other nights it doesn't do a thing. Because tapping is the final mile of a much longer signal process. It's the last part of the chain, not the first. And if the rest of the chain hasn't been built properly, the last part collapses. This is why people start to feel like they're chasing sleep. You get one good night and think you've cracked it. Then you can't repeat it. Then you try again. Different sequence. More pressure. More hope. Less results. But the truth is, you're just speaking to the wrong layer of the system. Your body is listening for permission to let go. And that permission only comes when your command center is no longer being told to stay awake. That's what most sleep advice misses. They focus on techniques that feel calming, but don't reach the deeper decision maker in your brain. So what does? That's the question no one asks. Because it's not a product, it's not a gimmick, it's not something that fits neatly into a 30-second tip video. It's a shift in rhythm, a rebalancing of signals. It's about sending the right message to the right part of the brain at the right time. And yes, tapping can help, but only after the rest of the system is aligned. The truth is, you've been starting at the end of the process. That's why it's not working. That's why you're still waking up in the night. That's why you feel more exhausted the older you get. It's not your age. It's your system waiting for a message it never gets. A signal that tells the hypothalamus, "You're safe. We're done. Shut it all down." Once that message is received, sleep comes naturally. Not forced, not chased, just returned, like a long-lost instinct. Because that's what it is. Sleep is not something you create, it's something you recover. Something your body remembers how to do when you finally stop interrupting it. But until that deeper signal is restored, you'll keep waking up. You'll keep tapping, adjusting, wondering, doubting. You'll keep blaming yourself or your age or the trick that used to work. And all the while, the real issue sits quietly in your brain, waiting for a cue it never receives. It's time to send it. Instead of chasing more points, it's time to shift your focus entirely. Stop thinking about which part of your wrist to tap next, or how long to hold pressure under your ear, or whether one sequence is better than another. That's surface. That's symptom management. It might help you start to feel relaxed, but it's never going to bring you into real, sustained, healing sleep unless you do something deeper. Activate your central rest switch, the system that actually tells your brain, "We're safe. The day is over. You can shut everything down now." This isn't about hacks. This is about alignment. You need to work with your body's built-in sleep pathways, not against them. That starts by giving your hypothalamus, the part of your brain that controls your circadian rhythm, your hormones, your internal body clock, a clear, repeated message that it is, in fact, time to rest. Not maybe, not eventually, now. And here's the truth. That message doesn't come from your fingertips. It comes from three things: simple, physical cues that speak directly to your rest system without needing tricks or pressure points. Breath, food, and focus. That's it. Three natural elements, three primal signals that, when combined, flip the body's internal rest switch far more effectively than tapping ever could. Let's start with breath. Not just slow breathing, not just deep inhales like you've seen in guided meditations. I mean a deliberate shift into parasympathetic rhythm, the state your body enters when it's done, fighting, thinking, fixing, surviving. This kind of breathing isn't dramatic. It's quiet, slow, and rhythmic. 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out. No pauses, no tension, no counting. Just the slow, predictable wave of breath that tells your nervous system, the danger is gone. We're home now. Within 2 minutes of doing this, your heart rate drops, your blood pressure softens, your brain starts releasing melatonin, not from a pill, but from within. Next, soothing food, not a heavy meal, not a bowl of fruit, just one small intentional snack that gently supports the repair process. A piece of banana, a spoon of warm oats, a handful of almonds, something that provides a tiny dose of magnesium or potassium, nutrients that relax your muscles and calm your nervous system, something that prevents blood sugar dips in the middle of the night, which your body often misinterprets as a threat, because when your glucose crashes, cortisol spikes. And when cortisol spikes, you wake up, whether you realize it or not. This small bedtime snack isn't indulgence, it's support. It's how you tell your system, you're nourished, you're held, you don't have to keep searching for energy. And then comes the most overlooked piece, the priming cue. This is not about tapping. It's about mental repetition. A short, silent phrase, something your brain can associate with the sleep command. Think of it as your brain's code word for rest. Something like, it's over, you're safe, time to restore. You repeat it in your mind while you breathe, while you sit, while you feel the food settle in your stomach. And eventually, just like with Pavlov's dogs, your brain starts connecting that phrase with a specific physiological response. Calm, quiet, and release. It's not hypnosis. It's not woo-woo. It's how your body learns. It's how habits are built. You've already trained your body to associate stress with emails, or anxiety with the sound of your phone, or hunger with the smell of bread. This is the same thing, but now you're using it on purpose in your favor to signal sleep instead of stimulation. So instead of relying on physical tapping alone, you create a multi-layered ritual. Breath that drops your heart rate, food that keeps your body steady, and a focused cue that sends the final signal to your brain. We're done. When you do this consistently, same breath pattern, same snack, same phrase, your hypothalamus begins to respond before your head even hits the pillow. You're no longer dragging your system into sleep. You're guiding it, gently, respectfully, as if you're walking a tired child to bed, not shoving it there with techniques. This is the new paradigm. Not tricks, not pressure, not more tools. Just alignment. Just understanding how your body actually decides to rest and helping it get there with as little interference as possible. Tapping can still have a place, but now it becomes part of a system, a final layer, a soft close, not the main engine. Because here's the real difference. When you activate your rest switch properly, you don't just fall asleep faster. You stay asleep longer. You wake up with clarity instead of fog, energy instead of dread. And most of all, you begin to trust your body again. You stop fearing bedtime. You stop micromanaging your nights. You let the body do what it was always designed to do, restore you. And this isn't about perfection. You'll still have off nights. Life still throws curveballs, but your system won't be guessing anymore. It will have a language it understands, a sequence it recognizes, and over time that repetition becomes resilience. You become someone who sleeps, not just someone who's constantly trying to. This is the shift you've been waiting for. Not harder, not stricter, just smarter, more honest, more human, more attuned to the signals your body has always been responding to, whether you knew it or not. And once you start sending the right messages, the ones your command center actually understands, everything else starts to fall into place. The fatigue lifts. The mornings feel different. And the sleep, it finally becomes real. Take Dolores, 67 years old, widowed for the last 8. 2 adult kids who live out of state. Her routine was simple, consistent, almost military in its precision. Up at 6:30, tea by 7, walks if the weather allowed, light lunches, dinner by 6 unquach, bed by 10:15 sharp. She didn't like to fuss. She didn't like to complain. But she was tired, always tired. She had started following a few online sleep channels. She was never one for gadgets or trends, but the idea of tapping felt safe, natural, no side effects, nothing invasive. She began tapping the 3 suggested points: wrist, thigh, under the ear, each night with hope. And for a few weeks, she thought it might be working. She fell asleep a little faster. Her body felt lighter when her head hit the pillow. But the same thing kept happening. She'd wake up around 3:20, sometimes 3:05, other times 4 a.m. Wide awake, not panicked, but alert, too alert, like her mind had turned on before her body was ready. She'd lie there in the dark, watching the faint shadows on the ceiling. Sometimes she'd try to tap again. Sometimes she'd read. But no matter what, the rest of the night was broken, and by 7 a.m., she felt like she had slept maybe 3 or 4 hours. Her joints ached. Her eyelids burned. Her memory lagged behind her mouth. When she finally brought it up, quietly, Ashamed, like many people her age are when they talk about sleep, she was convinced it was just age, that her body was simply past that point, that this was how it was going to be now. But it wasn't. What she didn't realize was that her tapping routine was happening inside a nervous system that was still on high alert. She'd been skipping dinner sometimes, thinking it would help her lose the weight she'd slowly gained in her 60s. Other nights, she had fruit, thinking it was a better alternative to sugar or processed food. But the fruit spiked her insulin, the hunger dropped her glucose, and both sent signals to her brain that something was off. Even if she didn't feel it, her hypothalamus did. She was also doing her tapping right after finishing dishes and turning off lights, rushed, as if it were just another box to check. No breathing, no silence, no slowdown. So we changed 3 things. First, we moved the tapping to the end of a new short routine, not the beginning. Second, we added a small chamomile tea with a teaspoon of cooked oats and a sprinkle of cinnamon, something warm, grounding, and slow burning, just enough to stabilize her system and stop the glucose dip that kept shocking her body awake. And third, we taught her one simple breathing rhythm. Inhale 4 seconds, exhale 6, while she repeated one phrase to herself silently over and over. The day is done. You're safe. You can rest now. She didn't like it at first. I feel silly, she said. I don't need mantras. I just want to sleep. But she tried it. Just 3 nights, then 5, then 10, and then something shifted. One morning she called and said, I woke up and it was light out, and I didn't move all night. I didn't even go to the bathroom. For the first time in years, she had slept a full night. No interruption, no blank stares at the ceiling, no quiet resentment of her body. She felt her words, not mine. Washed clean. Not young, not perfect, just rested, finally. She kept going. Her memory improved. She started writing again, something she hadn't done since her husband passed. She made plans with her neighbor for lunch. She walked longer. She laughed more. And the only thing that changed was how she told her body it was safe. Tapping wasn't the villain. It just wasn't the whole solution. Once she fed her body the right message, through warmth, breath, and repetition, her brain stopped fighting her. It stopped whispering, "Stay ready," all night long. And for the first time in almost a decade, her sleep felt like something that gave back, not something that took from her. And Dolores is not unique. I've seen this same pattern in dozens of older adults who thought their sleep was gone forever, who thought their brains had forgotten how to turn off, who had tried everything from sleep apps to prescription pills to blackout curtains. But the moment they addressed the root, the moment they started building a nightly rhythm that spoke clearly to the hypothalamus, everything changed. They didn't just sleep longer. They started to heal, to feel more like themselves again. They moved through the day without dragging. They handled stress better. They reconnected with joy, not just duty. The body isn't stubborn. It's responsive. It's just been waiting for the right signal. And when it finally hears it, clearly, calmly, repeatedly. It listens. But there's one overlooked brain-priming habit, done right after brushing your teeth, that turbocharges all of this. It's not a food, not a breath technique, not another tapping point. It's subtle, mental, almost invisible from the outside, and yet it might be the final message your brain has been missing all along, the signal that tells your system not just that it's time for bed, but that everything is finished, that no part of you needs to stay online. It's a technique most seniors have never even heard of, not because it's new, but because no one ever thought to teach it in this context. And yet, once it's in place, even the most restless minds start to quiet. Sleep doesn't just come easier, it stays longer. Because this one habit doesn't just soothe your body, it resets the entire conversation happening inside your head. And once you learn how to do it, everything else, the snack, the breath, the tapping, starts working like it was always supposed to. You've done the physical part. You've created stillness in the body. Now it's time to do the one thing most people never even consider: still the brain's unfinished loops. At the exact moment your system decides whether to stay alert or let go completely. Because if you skip this one, your body might look ready, but your brain never gets the message. And that message, it's what makes the difference between shallow sleep and real healing rest.